we're going to have to see how strong knights are. The TLDR is basically mages are probably still powerful. I think they're kept in check. I'm not sure exactly how they'll build now. But I think they're kept in check a little bit by this Coddle nerf and by knights. I do think that mages will still be powerful. Honestly, they're probably still a tier 1 build, but there's a good chance they're not tier 0 anymore, right? So like, for example, something like a combination of knights, mages, and warriors, and maybe hunters might be like kind of what tier 1 might look like. That's just a random guess. It's really hard to say without like, you know, thorough analysis. Tranquil Boots is okay. It's kind of average-ish. Pipe of Insight is okay. It's also kind of average-ish. Chaos Knight is nuts now. In the early game, you'll be building this unit a lot, I think, just to slap it in shit. And that's a big deal. Even like standalone knights make a bit more sense. The knight perk, the Knight Global, will make a lot of sense to buy now, and you'll probably go 4 knights with it. If you have the Global, 6 knights is probably even worse than if you don't have the Global. Scrappy got a bit of a nerf, but not that big of a deal. And I think the Assassin buff basically doesn't matter. I mean, this is nuts when you get it, but the odds of actually going Assassins and then getting Pocket Sand is kind of already fairly low, so it's not going to represent anywhere like close to a majority of game states. So it's a small patch, balance things out. I think it's overall a step in the right direction. The question is, how powerful will mages be still? And I think that they're still very powerful. They're still one of the best comps, but I think that's kind of how it's supposed to be. Like, mages are designed to be one of the stronger comps played by higher level players because they're tricky to play. And as long as they're not like tier 0 and like the only viable comp, which is to a degree, depending on who you ask, how it has been for the past several days, I think it's okay if they're just among the tier 1 comps. I don't think they need to not exist. What's going on? Balance update. Hang on. I gotta look at this shit. 43 minutes ago. Yo, it's time. Wait a second. It's not live? Patch notes but not live? That's perfect. I love reading patch notes and not actually playing the video game. That's the best of both worlds, guys. So this is just gonna be my first impressions of this, okay? Nothing too fancy. All right. Hang on. 1 second though. I feel very awkward talking without music in the background. So before I begin, I'm going to launch Underlords. Oops. Is it just me or is that slightly loud? I think it's just me. Okay. Let us begin. All right. So we've got. Here we go. So bright. Yeah, I don't use dark mode. Sorry. Adjustment to the game board. Just visual, cosmetic. The opponent selection logic. So you won't select the same opponents over and over. Performance optimizations. Mobile. A lot of like kind of like small stuff. No balance changes. Fixed unit stats not reflecting all items and equipment when querying before combat started. I like that. I think that's actually very useful. Here we go. Fix friendly AI not casting spells after a punch hooked an enemy. It's probably not that useful. Is it actually like is the volume a little loud? Seems slightly loud. Okay. Troll global item now stacks. I knew it. I knew it wasn't stacking. There was one game I found 2 of this item. There was one game I found 2 of this. And it actually like felt like ass. Okay, so suddenly this is actually a good thing. I think we would have had that game if this actually stacked. Alas. Yeah, I will now cast spells on the ground under target instead of on the target's location. Fixes floating spells if the target happens to be flying through the air. Okay. I guess that makes sense. Is that just visual? Dragon Alliance now requires 2 units. So this is the big change of this patch. Dragon Alliance got completely reworked. It might be powerful now. We have no idea. Move the banner to the right. Yeah, sure. Why not, boys? Just for you. Okay. So, oops. Dragons are busted. You guys are all saying dragons are busted, even though nobody's played on this. So, you know, we'll see. We'll see. So, Dragon Alliance now requires 2 units. Now unlocks an additional ability for each member of the alliance. Breathe Fire is now Dragonite's base ability, and the Dragon Alliance now unlocks Dragon Form. So this is very interesting. Don't know precisely how to feel about it, but basically he just has a free ability. Like, just a free ability. How does it work with, like, mana? Do they, like, prioritize... Will he just prioritize Dragon Form over Breathe Fire? If they're both separate mana abilities? Maybe it'll say down further. Dragonite hit points, huh? This is a big upgrade, right? Gained 10 health regen. What the heck? Maybe this is busted. That's a lot of changes all at once. Wow. Dragon Alliance now unlocks Phase Shift. So Phase Shift in Dota is not something that I feel like is going to be very useful here. I don't think so. Right? I mean, if Assassin like jumps on Puck, she'll take some damage and then redirect it to something else, which is kind of nice. But it doesn't seem super useful unless it does something additional, but we don't know yet. Viper Dragon Alliance now unlocks Corrosive Skin, which is a passive, which is quite interesting. It's possible Dragon Form will be like a passive or will cost no mana or something. I don't know. Who knows? So Corrosive Skin is on Viper. This one's a passive, and presumably this just means, like in Dota, whenever something attacks him, it'll just take damage and like get slowed or something like that. Which is not like the most useful thing on Viper. The Dragonite got a lot more buffed than these other two, which is pretty interesting. Yo, Tree, welcome to the 1/8 gay club. Pocket Sand now slows mana gained on receiving damage by 50%. And this is presumably for the duration. Mana gained on receiving. Whoa! Oh! Will debuff a random enemy unit within 2 cells? Oh! Oh! Oh, that's so good. Oh my god. That's so crazy, dude. That's insane. So this is a fairly decent assassin buff. The one thing is it's hard to actually have Pocket Sand when you're going assassins. It's not like you can see Pocket Sand and then be like, okay, we're going assassins. That's very, very rare. Because you rarely see this on 10, and by 10 you usually know what you're going as well. So it's like, usually this is just a buff to assassins when you happen to high roll into Pocket Sand when on them. Which is a lot less relevant than if something like if a tier 2 item got buffed, it would be a much bigger deal. Because if a tier 2 item got buffed, you would have it, people would be able to buy it on round like 3 before human rounds and then force that strategy. Whereas a tier 3 thing getting buffed is not as large for sure. Keeper of the Light, Illuminate now costs 150 mana. I like this change. I think that this is a good change. I do think that like the one thing that Underlords has that Auto Chess never did, well, there's a few things, but one thing that's really important that nobody's really talking about is like the amount of like different mana per hero. It's a very important design choice, and it means heroes can be balanced in these ways. I think this is a much better change than having it literally just like cost or like literally do less damage, which I think most people would have wanted. This I think is good. I'm not necessarily certain if I feel like this will be enough, but I think that this is the right kind of change to make. That being said, it's possible. It looks like mages are still going to be strong. Let's continue reading before, you know, we see exactly how that works. Desperate Measure now also increases mana gained on receiving or dealing damage by the same amount as attack damage. Did Desperate Measure need a buff? Increases mana gained on receiving or dealing damage. Isn't Desperate Measure the one where, like, if you have low percentage health, you do more damage? That was already pretty good. Wicked Intent now blocks HP regen. What the hell is Wicked Intent? Wicked Intent? Didn't look at the other keeper nerf. It's just health. I mean, it's not even like that much health. I mean, it's not like you can get to him in the back. Heartless stops regen 25%. Now also blocks HP regen. It didn't do that before? Okay, so I guess this is now theoretically accounted to like goblins. I still think you never picked this item, right? It still seems pretty horrible. Right? Stuff like goblins. Is there anything other than goblins you would want this on? It's just if you're in undead looking against goblins. Basically nothing else, right? Vanguard? I don't think Vanguard gives HP regen, my dude. Scrappy got nerfed. Now provides 8 armor and 9 health regen. Provides double that amount if your starting armory is smaller in size than your opponent's. Ooh! Whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa. That is an interesting design identity. Wow. Now provides 8 armor and 9 health regen. Let's actually hang on. Let me real quick see exactly what it was before. Cuz it was supposed to be like 15 and 15, right? Oh yeah, it's 10 in this game. 15 armor and 10 HP regen. So now it's 8 armor and it's 9 HP regen. Is that even a nerf? Yeah, that's a nerf. So theoretically, if you intentionally have one less unit, you get... These numbers are the same for both levels, right? This seems to be what that's implying. It's 8 armor and 9 health regen for both the 3 level and the 6 level, right? Seems to be. It's basically worse. I think it effectively has to be worse. It's basically a catch-up now. It makes them weaker in the early game. I mean, in the late game, it's impossible. Even if you're in 6 goblins, there's no way you can possibly have one less unit just for a bit more armor and health regen, right? God, is that worth it? Is that worth it? If you're in 6 Scrappy in the late game, and you're in, let's say you have 9 units, is it worth it to go down to 8 just to get double armor? It's for every unit, it's 8 armor and 9 health regen. But then you have like 1 less unit. I don't think that can be worth it. I think it's just a nerf to Scrappy. I do think this is interesting. I honestly think this is a fine change. I do think Scrappy was overrepresented at like super low levels. Because like, it's just everyone's favorite thing to do because it's easy, it's accessible, it transitions late, it's even like a little high rolly, it's like fun for noobs. And it was probably a little too like common to just see at high levels. I actually think that this is a positive change. I know a lot of like Scrappy pickers, you know, all the dozens of you guys out there will not necessarily be like this just because it's a nerf, I guess. But I think it makes it a bit more interesting. Scrappy pickers, Omega lol. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I don't know. I don't think there's... I'm thinking about the implications of this. I don't think there's necessarily too much else going on here, right? It's basically just worse. Yeah, it's basically just worse. Knight Alliance. Now gives a constant 15, 25, 35 damage reduction and an additional 20, 25, 30 when next to another knight. Additional. That's pretty good. So it goes up to 65%. What the heck? Wait a second. So knights right now are at 25, 35, 50. And now they're at 35, 50, 65. So basically they're up about 15% for free. It's about 15% for free. And it also makes you have that reduction when you're not near another knight. That sounds quite good, guys. Maybe it's multiplicative. I don't imagine it is, but it's possible. 4 knights is good now. So if we look at the scaling, it's 35 and then 50 and then 65. Yeah, 4 knights makes sense as well. Wow. 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 That still seems good, guys. Makes your last living knight actually do something too. Yeah. Knights Dragons meta, here we go again. I mean, honestly, that is what it sounds like. It sounds like Knights and Dragons are just good. Like, no joke. Knights and Dragons actually seem just neat. Like, quite neat. So if I have a DK and I just... Dude. Oh, that's so good. Right? Isn't that nuts? Mages with free DK. DK will just solo armies now? Unkillable Luna plus DK? Isn't this busted? Boots of Speed now Tranquil Boots. Wait a second. Hang on. I should actually pull this up. Boots of Speed now wait, I skipped Chaos Knight. Chaos Knight damage increased. Oh, 15 to 25 extra damage. So it's about 20 extra damage. 20 extra damage? Hello? What? Excuse me? So this is literally, wait, this is 20 extra damage at level 1 with Demon. This is 30. It's literally 30 extra average damage per hit at level 1? What the f? What? And then it's like 35 at 2. What? Guess we're Knight players now, guys. First week, it was Hunters, then it was Mages, and now it's Knights. That's it. We're in Knights. This is all we need to know. The question is it like, it might not be 6 Knights, it might be like 4. 4 Troll, 4 Knight. 4 Troll, 4 Knight looks pretty good, actually. Like, no joke. 4 Troll, 4 Knight seems good. Chaos Knight is now just a unit. Oh my god, that is crazy. Boots of Speed, now Tranquil Boots. Passive 16 health regen and 100% bonus move speed. This just makes sense. I don't know. I mean, there was no reason for this to just be existent. It was funny. It was a good joke. You know, I would go up to, you know, refill my water and I'd rope out and I'd get Boots of Speed, like teehee. That's funny. 15 health regen. The question is, how good is this? 15 health a second? Would I pick that over anything? Would I pick that over anything? 16? Whatever, guys. Jeez. Better than Scrabby bonus? It's just health regen. Health regen is like the weakest stat in the game, right? It's not good, but it's not complete garbage. I'm just like, I'm figuring out where I would tier this in, right? So here's my item tier list, and I've actually changed this a little bit. I've swapped around. So in the time since you guys last saw me, I've done some thinking. I've done some math, I've done some calculations, and I have reformatted my item tier list, I think. My items now go in a different order for my tier 1 items. So I go Gloves of Haste is the best one, then Claymore, then Vip Booster, then Blightstone, then Chainmail. I'm not sure exactly where Brooch fits in. It's a little variable, but basically it's not good. Basically, Brooch is bad. Basically, don't go Brooch. Which is, you know, it's fairly different from what I've been, like, doing. There's a few reasons for that. You're high. I don't think I'm high. We can talk about reasons. What do you guys think I'm high about? We can have this discussion after. But basically, what about Cloak? I mean, Cloak is shit except for the Mage meta. So basically, obviously, that's assuming that there's no Mage meta and Blightstone and Chainmail aren't bugged. Obviously, Blightstone is like the best one as long as it's bugged. The question is, where does 16 health regen and 100% move speed actually fit into that? So we can start with like something low on the list, which is like, let's say Chainmail. The question is that better than like a Chainmail? Gara said Blightstone isn't bugged. I'll have to talk with him about that. That's a weird thing to say. We can look at the Chainmail, and it's... I think this is still better than Boots, right? I mean, 16 HP regen is like funny in the early game, but it starts to eventually just do nothing. Okay, anyway, guys, let's continue the patch review. You're getting me off topic. We can talk items after this. New item, Pipe of Insight. 50% magic resistance. Once the first enemy has 100% mana, apply a shield that blocks 400 to all allies 1 cell away. So it's like another anti-mage item. I suspect... I don't really like this item. And it's once per battle. I guess the question is, how good is this item? In the late game, pretty much every build will deal some amount of magic damage, right? I guess like warriors might not. But even like fairly physical ones like dragons, knights, or assassins will deal magic damage. Pipe seems better than mech against any comp. I agree. However, mech is low-key bad, so I don't know how much that matters for this. The fact that it gives the user 50% magic resistance is just like an improvement, I guess. What rarity is it though? That's a good goddamn question. We actually have no idea. I guess that's a really good question. Is this tier 3 or tier 4? If it's tier 3, it's a decent item. I agree with that. Tier 4s are fairly competitive. I don't know. It's a little hard to evaluate because we don't know whether this is tier 3 or tier 4. It's got to be tier 4. I mean, it is better than mech. That being said, I don't know. If it's tier 4, I feel like it's... Nah, it's got to be tier 4, right? There's no way this is tier 3. It really does have to be tier 4. I think we can go ahead and assume it's tier 4 and rate it based on that. And I think this is pretty good. I think that's... It's a little hard to fit this in against other tier 4 picks. Guys, it has to be tier 4. This is way too good in tier 3. So we can go into our item rankings again. Let's go ahead and check out where this would rank in the game among, like, you know, our list of tier 4 items. So tier 4, as it stands currently, I think the best item is... I think Daedalus is very good. Daedalus and Radiance are both very good. Moonshard is okay. It's not as good as Daedalus. There are some builds you'd rather have a Moonshard in, like Assassins or Mages. Basically, you want to make sure your corner is diagonal to theirs, right? So, like, if they're on the left corner in your screen, it'll be the right corner when it comes to your board if you look at them and they're on the left, which means you want to also be on the left. And the reason for that is because you want the corners to basically split as much as possible so that when your unit charges its mana and when the pipe activates, their comp is spread apart a little bit and it's not hitting all of its heroes. Whereas if you're across from them vertically, and like maybe and this could even be a mage mirror, right? If you're across from them vertically and they have pipe, their corner comp, like with hunters or mages or trolls or whatever just wants to be balled up, will not move, and their pipe will hit their entire team, and you will probably lose. Okay, so that's like the one thing to, I think, keep in mind about if you're playing mages now with this patch with pipe added to the game. And I think that's it. Fixed Australia mode. Some Android devices have entered the game upside down. That's kind of funny. That's a good joke there. And we can see this Reddit user here appreciating this joke. Okay, so that's my impressions on the patch. We're gonna have to see how strong knights are. The TLDR is basically mages are probably still powerful. I think they're kept in check. I'm not sure exactly how they'll build now, but I think they're kept in check a little bit by this Coddle nerf and by knights. I do think that mages will still be powerful. Honestly, they're probably still a tier 1 build, but there's a good chance they're not tier 0 anymore, right? So, like, for example, something like a combination of knights, mages, and warriors, and maybe hunters might be like kind of what tier 1 might look like. That's just a random guess. It's really hard to say without, like, you know, thorough analysis. Tranquil Boots is okay. It's kind of average-ish. Pipe of Insight is okay. It's also kind of average-ish. Chaos Knight is nuts now. In the early game, you'll be building this unit a lot, I think, just to slap it in shit. And that's a big deal. Even like standalone knights make a bit more sense. The knight perk, the Knight Global, will make a lot of sense to buy now, and you'll probably go 4 knights with it. If you have the Global, 6 knights is probably even worse than if you don't have the Global. Scrappy got a bit of a nerf, but not that big of a deal. And I think the Assassin buff basically doesn't matter. I mean, this is nuts when you get it, but the odds of actually going Assassins and then getting Pocket Sand is kind of already fairly low, so it's not going to represent anywhere like close to a majority of game states. So it's a small patch, balance things out. I think it's overall a step in the right direction. The question is, how powerful will mages be still? And I think that they're still very powerful. They're still one of the best comps, but I think that's kind of how it's supposed to be. Like, mages are designed to be one of the stronger comps played by higher level players because they're tricky to play. And as long as they're not like tier 0 and like the only viable comp, which is to a degree, depending on who you ask, how it has been for the past several days, I think it's okay if they're just among the tier 1 comps. I don't think they need to not exist.